County School Board meeting to order. We will start this meeting with an oath of our new board member, Brian Jones.
President Brian Jones, our new board member of Jrotc County Schools, I'm going to give you our oath of office. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brian Jones,
I, Brian Jones,
solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the state of Indiana.
and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute
I will faithfully execute
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the board
as a member of the Board
of School Trustees of Greater Clark County Schools.
School Trustees of Greater Clark County Schools.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know, I see that there's quite a lot of folks here that do not have a mask on. I have some masks up here for you to put on. We asked our students and our staff just this week, and I know we all know about that, to please wear a mask. And I'm asking you to do the same. I have, as many as I have, I don't know, 12, 15 of them. If you don't want to wear a mask, I certainly will understand and respect that. You can watch this video online, but you will not be allowed to stay here. So,
You're gonna have to physically remove me.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to have me physically removed. I'll sit here and be peaceful and listen, but I'm not gonna put a mask on.
Yeah, everybody right there here. Aaron, there's officers here in this room.
I see that.
I know. So
I support our officers. I back the blue.
But right now you're in the wrong. That's what I'm asking.
I'm not in the wrong.
not in the
I'm
wrong.
breathing.
We're in the wrong.
You are.
I'm sorry, we're not debating about this. This is what we asked.
Oh, do not tread on me.
I'm sitting right here.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna have me physically removed.
I'm sorry, here's the story. We're asking you peacefully, nicely, to go ahead. You can certainly watch this online.
I'm right here.
You won't miss a thing. I know you are, sir. I can see you. I certainly can. Nobody's treading on anybody. Nobody's trying to be disrespectful.
We're nothing but disrespect.
Mask mandate, that is treading on people.
Okay, I'm sorry. Nobody's being disrespectful.
Yeah,
Not
you're
being
completely
disrespectful, I'm
disrespectful.
telling you how it is.
Okay, well, this
Is
is
it only my
debate.
body, my choice when it comes to killing babies?
Exactly.
That's right, exactly.
It's not a debate. What we can do right now is take a recess and we can ask the officers to communicate with you. So we're gonna do that right now. We're gonna recess as a board and we will commence in a minute.
They want to call in, we can call in.
For that, right now, at this point, we're going to, Ms. Markowski knows that all board members are present. Ms. Hill, would please stand with me and say the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This first item we have this evening would be our board salute, Greater Clark County Schools Educational Foundation and check presentation.
Good evening. My name is Emily Oliver Jones, and I am the Executive Director for Greater Clark County Schools Education Foundation. With me this evening is Chairman Josh Hillman. The Education Foundation is a nonprofit that supports educative initiatives in all of our Greater Clark County schools. And tonight, we are honored to be presenting a check in the amount of $10,000. This check will support the academies of Greater Clark that is at all of our high schools, and it prepares our students for post-secondary education. So, Mr. Walker, when you present.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the work you do for students and our schools.
Thank you.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
Our next board salute is to our Jeffersonville High School JROTC. And this is such an honor. I have watched these young students grow up since elementary school, and it has been a privilege to see the outstanding achievements that they have been able to accomplish within our school district. The Jeffersonville High School JROTC finished third place in the National Academic Bowl Championship in Washington, D.C. Through all the challenges of COVID-19 and distance learning, Air Force JROTC cadets have risen to the challenge through their participation in the 2020-21 JROTC Leadership and Academic Bowl. The cadets from Jeffersonville High School have proven their ability to overcome and succeed despite these obstacles. After advancing through 2 phases of online competition with 470 teams participating, the Jeff High School's Air Force JROTC academic team, composed of Lily Anderson, Luke Canapple, Daniel Pryor, and Aaron Sue, competed in the championship event in Washington, D.C.
Good job. Congratulations. Thank you, Colonel.
Next item up would be the approval of the agenda. And Lord, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Can I get a second, please? Ms. Hutchinson, thank you for the second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if you all would like to take off on JT, you can. You do not have to. Totally up to you. Thank you. Next item would be approval of minutes from the previous meeting, and I move that we approve them as submitted.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Don't forget
Yes, sorry, I'm sorry, I'll get you. All right, next would be our goal strategy and student achievement budgets. The first one would be the major funds monitoring report. That would be Mr. Greener, I believe.
Good evening, Board. Mr. President, come before you tonight with the 2 financial reports that I send to you monthly. You will notice that June 30th is a significant time in preparing for the budget. It's an 18-month budget, a little over. So as you can tell, I did report to the board. If you look at the ending cash balances and the 5 major funds that we will be discussing in the work session tonight, the bottom line, ending cash balance there minus the TAWs as the target area that you are at. So you know that we set some goals there and we will cover that. But we're ending, one thing I do want to tell you is, Mr. President will be signing an updated form here because if you look in the operations fund under TAW, there's $28,000 there. That was data entered on the wrong line. It just needs to move up to other revenue. We didn't get any revenue from the TAW there. So it was just that line item here. So as you stood was a little over $7 million in education fund, a little over $11 million in operations. Your debt fund is a little over $6 million, and your pension debt fund is $298,000, and then your rainy day is $2.9 million. We'll talk about the significance of these funds during the work session, Mr. President.
Thank you. And the next would be our treasurer's.
This is our standard monthly treasurer's report For June 30th, this will reflect all the cash balances for all the funds that we do manage in the district. I'm glad to report at this time that, we do have reimbursables that are due the 15th and 30th of every month. So if you do see anything in the red, that is due to reimbursement requests at the time to go down. We have a beginning overall cash balance sitting in the district at $33 million. That is still majority of our grants. In June, we receive our tax distributions, so that's the determining factor here. This also becomes significant in attaining the goals the board has set at last budget session. If there's any question, I can close at this time.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item will be our transportation report presentation. Dr. Chance, please.
Good evening, Board. I just wanted to give you an update on where we're at. As you know, we started school and we had some reductions that we had taken place over the course of the summer. We went from a 3-loop system in Jeffersonville down to a 2-loop system. So essentially that means we have middle school and high school students riding together, and then we go back out for an elementary. As always, when we start school, balancing out the routes and making sure that parents who may not have put in the request or students that are a little unsure what bus they ride home on, we work through all of those things. And I can tell you today that we have worked through over 3,800 of those types of requests, whether it be a phone, email, most of those coming through the Google app that we have, that is on our website. So just as a reminder to all those parents, if they do have any changes, let's just say a change occurs tomorrow and they're going to have a different drop-off or a different pickup point location, they can put that request in by using that form. And then we try to get that turned around within a day's time. So we have 0 right now. We continue to work through those on a daily basis. Can't say enough about my staff and what they're doing. We continue to monitor those overcrowding issues. All of our passenger buses, we have a few 81 passenger buses. But obviously, 2 to a seat for middle school and high school for sure is where we want that number to be. And oddly numbers, ever since the very first day of school, again this morning and this afternoon, we're below that on all of our buses. So we're proud of that fact. We did create a couple of buses to help with that overcrowding. Honestly, just taking some time and getting through the first couple days of school that really helped. So appreciate your patience with that. I know you had some phone calls, you had some emails. But again, I can't say enough about my staff and the countless hours that they work and help bring that to fruition. Moving forward, you're going to see on the agenda later tonight, it wasn't consent, and now we pulled that out for an action item. We have had 4 unassigned drivers. So those are drivers that we brought in during the summer. They go out every day. They're guaranteed by union contract, they're guaranteed a certain number of hours a day, 5 hours a day. But they have to hop around and drive different routes, cover stuff, requests, and all of those different things. We've had 4 drivers that have left, a couple for disciplinary action, and 2 because they went to drive for a contractor. So those 4 unassigned drivers now are technically assigned. So what I'm asking is, earlier in the board packet, we had 3 routes we were going to put out for bid, for proposal. So all that allows us to do is to see what contractors are out there in the area and what those proposals would come in for. The process is no different than what we've always done before. We'll issue packets, we'll have those here, we'll put those on our website. It has the verbal descriptions, the turn by turn of those routes, has the mileage of those routes. And we put that out as a feeler to see if there's any contractor that would like to take on the onus of responsibility and providing the driver, providing the equipment, providing the bus. The bus has to meet our standards, has to meet the state standards, it has to be a 78 passenger or larger. All of those things considered in lieu of what's happened over the last 8 days of school, and now me not having any unassigned drivers. There's some mornings you'll find me behind the wheel. There's some afternoons you'll find me behind the wheel. We try to keep 2 people in the office, 1 mechanic in case we have a breakdown, and then at least 1 person in the office to answer the bus radio, always answer the phone. Always with that in mind, they do a better job of answering radio and answering the phone than I do. So I'll drive before I send that person out. You don't want me to repair the bus. I know enough to be dangerous, but we keep a mechanic to do that, so I'll drive the bus. But with that being said, that's why you see the pulling out of that for an action item, because I'd like to go ahead and take that number from 3 to 7. Again, we don't have to accept those. If they don't come in very aggressive and we don't reverse negotiate those down, essentially I have a cost that I know we pay as a district. If we get close to that, then certainly that's a win for the district, and that will be a win for an area contractor as well. But I'll be bringing those to you at the next board meeting with the results of that. We're going to advertise tomorrow, we'll advertise the following Wednesday, with the opening on the following Thursday, a week from this Thursday.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Shank, very much. What you do and your staff as well. I know it's been a tough start, and you've made a lot of moves. I appreciate it.
Quick question.
Yes.
So with 3,800 moves throughout the district, that's over a third of the students, correct?
That's right.
So now, are we going to shift to at least try to figure out how we can, lower that number next year?
Oh, absolutely. So I sure hope it's lower. We're not redoing every route. So essentially, that's what had to happen by going from a 3-tier to a 2-tier. It even changed the times of our elementary schools, because it actually gave us a little bit more time to go out, so it lessened the amount of hurriedness. So that was a benefit for us. Not to mention, we did see some absorption of some routes. That's how I was able to get the 4 unassigned drivers at the start of the year. But yeah, I don't anticipate, unless the board and superintendent direct me to do otherwise, we're good. We're ironing out all the things. We're continually watching the fluctuations in car rider or in bus ridership, knowing that this is a system that we've done in New Washington for decades. We've done in Charleston for decades, and it was time to get it implemented here in Jefferson. So we've done that with fidelity, knowing that I think we're committed to that as well as the future.
And I will say, we've taken good notes on things that we had to deal with at the start of the school year. First, let me say that, as I said the last time, no start to the school year is perfect. I mean, I was a principal for 14 years in this district. And every year I was a principal, typically I was waiting outside of the school with about 30 or 40 students, 40 minutes after school got over with, waiting for somebody to come and pick them up. Usually it was Milt Clayton who would come by and pick them up about 40 minutes after school got out of Parkview. And usually by day 4 or 5, all 14 years I was principal in this district, it would get cleaned up and ironed out. Now I will say we had a few more issues this year than we had in the past, because we went to that 2-tier route system in Jeffersonville. So essentially, like Chad said, every secondary student in Jeffersonville had to have a new route created. So obviously we had to work through a few more issues because of that. Our hope is next year we don't have to work through those issues. But there's also some things that we want to do in terms of cleaning this up. And right now we ask parents to register their child, for school, but then they also have to fill out a transportation form. We want to try to streamline that. There's one form, one registration, so that we can track that. There's little things that we think we can do, and putting out more reminders to our parents to get them, registered earlier, so that we know which children need to be picked up and which ones don't.
And I'll add, tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, 2 months from tomorrow, we never strand kids at Jeff I, or River Valley, or Charlestown High School, or New Washington Elementary. So the sensationalism sometimes in the media is just that. It's just sensationalism. It's just noise. We had overflow buses. Overflow buses pulled up right after a bus. They were there waiting in line, and after all the buses left, overflow buses pulled up, and we took those kids home directly. So when you see those types of things, it's frustrating, but you know that they're hoping to get a Peabody, they're hoping to sell hens. It's just noise. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Next item up would be the consent agenda. Board, do I have a motion?
President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Do we have any comments, concerns? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? There we go. The next item up will be our gifts to buildings. Fair Katrina, would you help us with that?
Yes, so this time we have $500 from Parkland LLC for project at Jefferson High School. Michael Mustang, there's no spam list call, I was sure they wanted to know like card Parkwood Elementary new school sign, which that has been And then Walgreens for parking, 200 sports to be bottles. Kroger Rewards, we do not sign up for Kroger Rewards. Riverside got 600. And then Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola principal's discretion for a total of $2,139.30. I mean, we accept these as submitted.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Green, we appreciate that. Are there any discussion, any comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Thank you, sir. All right, the first action item we have would be the permission to advertise 3 additional bus routes. I guess it's 5 additional.
Be 7, we're gonna add 4 to that 3, yes, sir. And those bus routes are 224, 227, 162, 222, 220, 185, and 186. Those are Jeffersonville routes. One of those routes has a crosser shuttle, a midday shuttle attached to that. And again, the permission we're asking for tonight just allows us to advertise for proposal, open those bids, those proposal bids that come in a week from this Thursday, and then reverse negotiate to see if we can get into those at that level, if it's close to our breaking point that it costs us to run that as a school district. If we can do that, then I'll be bringing those recommendations to you next board meeting.
All right, board, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept permission to advertise 5 additional bus routes.
7.
7 additional bus routes.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Any comments, sir? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Next is the appropriation transfer resolution for 2021. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. School boards are authorized to approve transfers when necessary to cover additional requests between major accounts by way of resolution. Generally, this process I handle by at the end of the school year, because this can happen when you have certain expenses that come through and the state board of accounts has assigned different account numbers along with after you've already done your budget. So we'll see some of this next year. This request was significant to me by way the teachers have requested additional purchases. Thus attached to resolutions that funds are being transferred from major account instructional services to instructional supplies. This need was located for each high school, thus increasing appropriation available until the end of the 2021 school year. The 2022 budget has been increased significantly to handle the 2022 supply purchases. I recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the appropriation transfer resolution in a total amount of $90,000 out of purchase services to student supplies. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Board, do I have a motion to approve the appropriation transfer resolution?
Mr. President, let's see, I move to approve the appropriation transfer resolution for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Any comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, Ms. Schubert, we're here next for the general obligations bond resolution 2021.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
So when walking into the district, the cash balance that we were at was very well demonstrated to you through the 21 budget. And again, the significance of this general obligation bond will be discussed extensively through that budget process because we do have to report that. But in your packet, you will have 2 resolutions approving reimbursement expenditures and the final bond resolution. What this represents is that we know that over this course of time getting into our buildings, we do have some situations that have become emergency now. We do have the 5-year plan, and we will talk about that later in this agenda and how we're going to fund that. But this is because of emergency plumbing. We want to make sure that anything that's caused from that, whether there's paving failures, just different things that are going on in the district that we need to take care of most immediately. Currently, we've already replaced several pieces of equipment within our food service that stores our children's food. And so we will be reimbursing us, we paid for that, we're going to reimburse us for that from the bond. So I'll be asking to go out and obtain $1 million to handle emergencies throughout the district that will specifically handle the failures that are going on, the emergencies in the system, sewer failures, HVAC failures, any ADA compliance failures, those kind of major building repairs that are coming through with our whole system and our techs that are inside our district now. So I recommend that the board gracefully approve these two resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Board, do I have a motion for the approval of the general obligations bond resolution for 2021?
Mr. President, I recommend that we approve the general application bond resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
I second that.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do you have any comments, discussion? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? I'm sorry. Keith made the motion.
And I said, thank you, I'm sorry.
It's all right, no, I'm sorry. Taking care of some Ms. Huber, I believe you reviewed underwriting engagement letter related to general obligations on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In order to go to the bond market to receive those funds, you do have to engage with a team that will handle that. This board is experienced with the Stiefel group, who is also, handling your finances and your other bonds. So for this general obligation bond, we need to approve an engagement letter with Stiefel to get our general obligation bonds issued. I recommend that the board respectfully consider this as your underwriter.
Board, do I have a motion for the general obligation bond for 2021?
Mr. President, I recommend, I move that we accept the approval of underwriter engagement letter related to the general obligation bonds in 121.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Any comments, concerns? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Next, Ms. Huber, bond resolution for the 2021 projects.
Thank you, Mr. President. As presented to the board, the results of the task force 5-year plan, we are embarking on a first year to accomplish those needs within the district. So those initial steps have been conducted with the board. The projects are for the purpose of construction, renovation, and improvements to 18 various education facilities, such as, but not limited to, renovations and additions to Riverside Elementary, River Valley Middle School, North Haven Elementary, Charlestown Middle School, the outdoor athletic facilities at Jeffersonville High School, Charlestown High School, and New Washington Middle High School, and indoor athletic facilities at New Washington Elementary, and district-wide paving, HVAC, security, technology improvements, and the purchase of land for the future school buildings. Before you in your packet is the reimbursement expenditure from the 2021 bonds, and approving the amendment to the lease agreement. As you well know, that's how we obtain our funding, is through the building corp. And so we will be amending that lease that is inside your packet there. This will be presented to you for your final approval and signature on September 28th, with the Greater Clark Building Corporation will also sign on that day as well. You have minutes from this evening that represent your decision whether to approve or disapprove this. So I do recommend to the board that we go ahead and move forward and approve the 2021 bond project.
Board, do I have a motion for the approval of the bond resolution for 2021?
Mr. President, I recommend we approve the bond resolutions for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Paul, I appreciate that.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions, comments?
So what would be our next step after this?
All right, so we do have a public hearing that will be occurring, and And then after that, you sign at least 3 months after the building corp signs them, because they do take on that process. Because that money has to go through them. It's handled by a trustee. I am your designated trustee with U.S. Bank. So that process has an addendum, an affidavit that's requested for payment. So it requires notary approval. So that's how we submit those payments through when projects are done and done at a certain pace.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it's very important to note that this keeps us at that $1.10 tax rate, you know, that we've talked about during work sessions, meetings, the 5-year facility plan, the task force meetings, that, you know, we're committed to that. You know, Laura can certainly speak more to that, but it keeps us where we want to be. You know, they're tax neutral projects. It doesn't negatively impact any taxpayer in our district.
And you said there wasn't going to be a public hearing?
Yes.
Were they on that yet?
September 28th.
You just said that earlier, and I didn't hear it. Thank you, thank you.
That's it.
You're trying to trick her, Penny? Yeah, I was tricking, I just want to make sure that you knew what you knew, that you know it. You gotta know, you know, you know, you know.
Yeah.
Or I'm pretty sure said.
I'm doing a lot of memorizing. But I do have papers right here, just in case, and your bond attorney is present, so he can answer any other questions that, you know, I can't, so, but, that's the 20th. We would go through the process on that one, so.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Traditional, just like you've done, and I will cover very extensively in the budget presentation.
I'm so excited, I know, I can't wait.
I know you are. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
Where do I have a motion for approving the bond resolution for the 2021?
did.
Yeah, we did.
Just call for a vote.
I'll call for a vote, but I got sidetracked.
I know, my questions were so good, I heard.
They are, they're riveting, it's riveting. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okey-doke. Next action item we have is the remote contract.
Take a break. I have this one. The MOAT contract is actually part of the Jrotc project. I'm bringing this to the board today because we would like to go ahead and ask the board to approve this contract so they could begin work this fall and get the fields at Jeff High and Charlestown High completed before next season starts. As many of you know, maybe you got emails, phone calls about the significant water issues that we have in Charlestown. To a point where they couldn't practice or play for weeks at a time, several days at a time because of the water. These were originally part of the project, you know, in terms of the 5-year facility plan. So we're really just trying to get a jump start on this so that they're ready by the next season and we don't have to deal with all the water issues come next March when the season starts. We think that these will be great additions for both those schools. What we're asking the board to approve with the MOAT group is turf for the whole softball field at Jeff High and the whole softball field at Charlestown High and the baseball infield at Charlestown High. So respectfully ask you, recommend you the board approve it.
Board, do I have a motion for the approval of the MOAT group contract?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the vote.
Thank you, Ms.
And I
Perkins.
second that.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any comments or questions? I know we've been through this quite a lot. Anyone else have any concerns? Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right. I believe we have made it through our action items, and now we have public comments. So I think we have 3. Is that correct? And we'll call your name, whomever speak, come up please and say who you are, where you live, and you'll have 3 minutes. And yes, ma'am. Okay, perfect. You have 3 minutes, and if you know, stay as positive as you can, so we can keep this on the podium. So our first speaker would be Sabrina Corbin.
Good evening. My name is Sabrina Corbin, and I live in Jrotc, Indiana.
Thank you for, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, she said your address, maybe you were getting to that, I apologize.
I live in Charlestown, but in Jeffersonville.
Yes, ma'am, just your address, please, I'm sorry.
Oh, my physical address?
Yes.
6406 Whispering Oaks Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I would also like to thank Ms. Perkins and Mr. Freeman for responding to my emails. My husband and I are both Jeff High graduates. We have always lived in this district, and our kids have always gone to Greater Clark County schools. We are invested in this community. I am here tonight to give some insight on the effects that the current school board policy has for our student athletes. Frankly speaking, our student athlete seasons are in jeopardy. This year, parents were given two options for their child for their education: traditional school setting or virtual learning. What the board did not give is student athletes multiple options. In order to be a student athlete, you had to choose the traditional school environment. Why not allow students that are athletes to have virtual learning temporarily during their season? If students are quarantined, they have to do e-learning anyway. After the first 3 days, we had 20 football players quarantined due to contact tracing from school. On the fourth day, we had 10 more. According to your email, there are over 1,100 students quarantined. Last year at Jeff High was a success. But they did work. We had a successful school year with our kids being able to be in the classroom the majority of the time, combined with e-learning. We were able to let our student athletes have a season. We kicked Floyd Central's butt in multiple sports, so in my opinion, that's the way all the way around. In all seriousness, with the current policy in place, we are setting all of our student athletes up for failure. Right now, our football team has lost a scrimmage and a home game. If we go back after quarantine, there's another exposure. We potentially could lose another 3 games, and our season could be over. Last year, we had 0 players test positive for COVID during the season. All of our quarantines happened due to school exposures. Academically, we succeeded. We only had 1 player out of 113 not be academically eligible. Do you know we have almost 30 seniors on our football team? How are these athletes going to be recruited to play in college? How many other sports and programs will be impacted? Many athletes in their senior year depend on that for scholarships. I also want to address the inconsistencies in the return to school policy. How can a student who has symptoms get a negative test and return after 5 days, but a student with an exposure with no symptoms has to wait 14 days regardless of a negative test? This will affect all programs. Will band be able to have concerts? Will theater be able to have plays? Do you know how many hours each of these kids have invested in their craft? We have to do something, and we have to do it now. I implore you to please revisit what worked last year, re-implement social distancing and temporary e-learning so that our student athletes and the rest of our students can have the opportunity for a successful year. Thank you for listening, and I hope that we can get a response to this matter quickly. Again, I appreciate your time, and thank you for allowing us to talk tonight.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Michael Lynn.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lenz. I live at 923 Double Creek Drive here in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Tonight I'm here to complain about the mask mandate. I won't waste anybody's time talking about everybody else's school board meetings. Everybody's seen the internet. Everybody knows about Dr. Vicker's speech last night. Everybody knows about Dr. Stockton's speech in Mount Vernon. I've sent every single board member that was on the website links, information, and studies of what masks and mental health have done for these children. More children every day are just being mentally and physically drained from all these COVID regulations that you all keep changing. As the lady that just spoke just said, you guys are very inconsistent as well as everybody in the government. Nobody is consistent. So tonight, I am going to talk about the mental awareness of our children in the past year. More children in the last year, since March 16th, have been diagnosed with depression than any other year in the last 2 decades. Over 64,000 youth in Indiana have been diagnosed with having a major depressive episode 16,000 have received continuous medical treatment, which is exactly 6 or longer months. 16,000 have also been denied medical treatment because of their insurance unwilling to pay for that. The only positive out of everything is not one child in Clark County has died from COVID-19. However, 8 in the state of Indiana have. Indiana youth suicides because of mental health has spiked 21% throughout the state since March 16, 2020. 35 children were 10 years old or younger. The youngest suicide was a 6-year-old child. And that hits hard for me at home because I have a 6-year-old daughter that goes to Utica Elementary. Before reading all these statistics and all these studies, I was just a concerned parent because I am a healthcare worker. I've worked every day for the last 18 months with these people. I've been called a hero in my line of signs, but in the last month I've been told that if I don't get a vaccine, I lose my job. If I don't wear a mask every day, I lose my job. We're no longer heroes. So that is no longer concerning. It makes me a pissed off parent, a very angry parent, because the board refuses to look at the science. Refuses. You all are just going by guidelines, not laws, not mandates, none of that. You guys are going by guidelines. There's not a single law or mandate in this state except for transportation. So I ask that you all relook at that and allow it to be a choice and not a mandate. Thank you.
Michael Hilliard, we are our next speaker.
On the clock. All right. My name is Michael Hilliard, 1218 Harvest Court in Jeff, and I'm a proud parent of 2 GCCS elementary school students. Go Wildcats. Let me start by applauding the superintendent and the board for your decision regarding mask mandates and to exercise the legal authority the governor has issued you. Considering the rapid spread of COVID in our school system, the first 8 days of school, it was a wise and prudent decision. I want to implore you, though, to continue following the science regarding masks. The science is clear. Masks work in helping to prevent the spread of COVID, especially when combined with social distancing and proper hygiene. While there are videos of misinformation circulating the web, those videos are easily refuted and debunked with actual science. Study after study shows similar results that even these simple cloth masks prevent the moisture droplets we exhale when breathing, speaking, coughing, or sneezing from traveling, which in turn helps prevent the virus from spreading. Not just COVID, but other viruses as well. The numbers of children infected and quarantined in the first 8 days without masks speak for themselves. We have more than double the cases we did in the first month of school in 2020, and now we have an entire school closed and doing e-learning for at least a week. The science is clear. Masks work. Unfortunately, masks are only effective when everyone wears one and wears one correctly, as wearing one protects other people rather than protecting yourself. Masks afford the wearer some protection, but the wearer is most protected if everyone else is wearing a mask. My children wear masks out of Christian compassion, knowing that they are protecting other people. My first grader, though, began arguing with my wife about it last week because I quote, "No one else in my class is wearing it." Strongly recommended simply means that kids will not wear masks and will not be protecting each other. A mandate is the only way to ensure that our kids are protected in schools. This is a public health issue, plain and simple. We cannot trust parents to send their kids to school without a fever or without vomiting right before school. How can we trust them to do the right thing regarding masks? especially because this issue has become so politically charged. Our children's health should not be a political issue. It should not be a decision based on emotion. It should be based on science and on fact. The Delta variant is spreading through our country. More concerning the fact that this variant, according to data currently available, is more deadly to children, more infectious to children, as evidenced by ICUs across the country and children's hospitals that are seeing additional children that we did not see in 2020. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Michael. Well, we've come to the wonderful time of board comments. Mr. Jones, do you have anything you'd like to add this evening?
Not a whole lot. Congrats again to the Jrotc students, and just excited to be here to get sworn in and get started.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Just to get very proud of our Jrotc guys. Go guys. Big effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
And ladies.
We'll work on it.
Yeah, I do have a comment today. I usually don't do comments too often during the end of our meetings, but I think that this right here could actually be a turning point for us as a community. The ways that we've actually been fighting this all summer, and even the first couple of days of school, did not work. So this right here is the beginning. This right here is where we take responsibility for not only ourselves, but also our neighbors and our neighbors' kids, because they're all in the same boat. We have an entire school that's closed this week. Think about that. An entire school. So therefore, anything that we did previous obviously didn't work. So we went back to the drawing board and we had to come up with something that we knew did work. Now, I don't like this. I don't like wearing masks. I really don't. But I want one in here in every meeting. I also want one every time I go to the grocery store. Also, my kids every day wear masks into the school. So when I go out to the community and I see somebody else who's not putting forth the same effort, that bothers me. Are we really going to go ahead and look at these kids, look at these seniors who are giving up so much because we won't put forth the effort? We can beat this. I'm not going to tell anybody to get the shot. That's your personal choice. But if you want to beat this, you make the choice. You wear your masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for all you do with the Greater Clark Education Foundation. And congratulations to the ROTC. Y'all just amaze me. I mean, it's just one thing after another. Y'all, you win an award, right? I mean, and this was a national competition. Is that correct? National competition. So we have so much to be proud of in Greater Clark and so much to celebrate. And that's, you know, I wish we could really, really focus on that more so than our differences. I know that's a lot to ask because we all have different opinions. But just maybe, you know, this week try to look at something that's going on in our school system. We won't have to look very far. That's very, very positive. A problem that has been solved pretty quickly. Those kinds of things, because that's what, you know, that's what keeps us a school system that, although we have so many different people with different ideas and different walks of life, and none of that matters if we come together for that one purpose, and that is to educate our kids and keep our kids safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, just to repeat some of the things that were said, I'm so proud of Herman and his group. Every year, it just you just do outstanding things with this group. Your leadership is noticed and applauded, and your students have become wonderful citizens, and I appreciate all that you do. I also appreciate the civility that happened after some people left. I appreciate that very much. As you know, this is a board meeting in public. It's not a public hearing, and I appreciate that. But the four of you that are wearing your mask under your chins, I don't know why you're doing it, but for those of you that are doing that, I'm sorry you don't care about the rest of us.
What about the board members that weren't wearing them when we walked in? There was two of you. Had them hanging off their ears. You weren't
She
wearing them at
wasn't
all.
even wearing it when she was up speaking at the podium.
So what about that?
We're not gonna have a conversation about it.
No, you're just gonna bag people sitting out here, but you're not gonna take responsibility for your
I'm
own
sorry.
damn actions.
I'm sorry, I appreciate what you're saying, let's just.
No, you don't.
We're gonna close this meeting
You
down.
don't care at
There
all.
you go.
I know you don't, I know, but at any rate.
That's why you didn't respond to any of the emails I sent any of you board members.
I
Not one.
appreciate, I'm sorry, sir. I appreciate you all doing the best you can tonight. I know it's difficult, you know, whether you're for mask or against it. I know, you know, it's a tough situation. It's a very tough situation. Some people have really dug in their heels one way or another. You know, we're sitting up here as a board of 7, trying to make the best decision we can for the most kids that we can. We can't act on what we knew last year, and that when we started wearing masks, the cases went down. You know, I mean, that's a fact. And I know there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in social media. I wish there wasn't a social media. I do appreciate you all coming out. I do appreciate people, you know, saying what they feel politely. And again, we're all in Greater Clark, and we're doing the best we can do. Thank you for showing up tonight. I appreciate it. Jrotc.
Yeah, you know, first of all, you know, as an educational leader, you're taught to be data-driven. You know, whether you're principal, superintendent, whatever it may be, you look at the data and you follow the data, you make your decisions based on the data. You know, it's not my job to be political. It's not my job to pick sides on whatever political spectrum, you know, the mask issue falls on. It's my job to look at the data. It's also our job as educators to keep kids in school and educate them. You know, and the data was very obvious the first 5, 6, 7, 8 days of school. You know, as of day 9, yesterday, we had 87 cases, 2 staff, 85 students. We had 1,261 students quarantined as of yesterday. Last August, we only had 30. Last January, when all students came back to school, we had 60. So we passed, you know, both those months easily in 9 days. Okay, I want kids in school, and if I think, you know, wearing a mask and making sure kids wear a mask in this district will keep them in school and be educated by our teachers in person, then to me, it was a very easy decision to follow the route we did in terms of asking our students, asking our staff to wear masks. Now, I will say, we've also tried to placate both sides. You know, when you look at our decision to follow the color coding system, that when we're in red or orange, you know, we're mandating masks. When the color coding system goes back to blue or yellow, then it'll be strongly recommended or optional. Right now, the county is in orange. We thought it was going to move to red, but it's staying in orange. From what I understand, I just heard that before I came down here this evening. There's a good chance that the way the numbers are going, it'll go to red. You know, but we're going to follow the data. That's our job. And we're also going to do whatever necessary to try to keep our kids in school, in person, being educated by the teacher, standing in front of them, because we all know that that's the best education a child can get. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Law. Ms. Markowski? All you go. Well, board, do I have a motion for adjournment? Thank you very much. Second. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned.